Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my respectful obeisances.
Please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All right, can I begin? Yeah? Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome everyone back to our study of Bhakti Sastri, and we're looking at chapter number 11. We got up to text number 33. Lord Krishna was replying to Arjuna's question, who are you? What is your mission? And the Lord replied that he was time. And then he explained to Arjuna that, but for you Pandavas, everyone else is going to die in this battle of Kurukshetra. So the Lord was encouraging Arjuna to be confident and to go forward and take part in the great battle. And he told him that all of these people, Bhishma and Drona and Karna, they're all going to die. Whether you fight or not, Arjuna, it's up to you. If you fight, you can be the instrument in the fight. All right. So text number 33. Nimittamatram bhava savya sachin. Therefore, get up, prepare to fight and win glory. Conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement. And you, O Savyasachi, can be but an instrument in the fight. So Arjuna is encouraged to perform his duty in a detached manner. That is the beauty of the Lord's dealing with his devotees. Sometimes the Lord gives more credit to his devotees than he takes for himself. For instance, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Lord Krishna fought simply by giving directions. Yet it was Arjuna who took the credit for fighting. Nimitta matram bhava savyasachin. You, O Savyasachi, Arjuna, can be but an instrument in the fight. Everything was arranged by the Lord, but the credit of victory was given to Arjuna. Similarly, in the Krishna consciousness movement, everything is happening according to the predictions of Lord Chaitanya, but the credit goes to Lord Chaitanya's sincere servants. So you see Srila Prabhupada humbly taking credit, just like Prabhupada distributed the holy name. He said, actually, it's all happening according to the predictions of Lord Chaitanya. It was Lord Chaitanya who predicted that the Krishna consciousness movement would go everywhere, to every town and village. So Prabhupada said the credit should actually go to Lord Chaitanya, but somehow the credit comes to the sincere servants. So actually it's Prabhupada's humility. Prabhupada actually he was rarely recognized. He was rarely given credit. All right, so it's an important point, though, that Lord likes to give the credit to his devotees. We see also in the Battle of Lanka, Hanuman got a lot of credit there. And we can see also in the Krishna consciousness movement, Prabhupada gave a lot of credit to his disciples. Things which Prabhupada actually did, Prabhupada didn't take the credit for them, but he gave the credit to his disciples who were acting on his behalf. Just like Prabhupada gave the credit to Govinda Devi Dasi. Govinda Devi Dasi, he said, she has introduced the worship of Tulsi to the Western world. It was Prabhupada who told her, to do it, but she did it, and Prabhupada recognized her. He said, this Govinda Dasi, she has introduced the worship of Tulsi. And there was another devotee, he was called the Emperor of Sankirtan, Madhuvisa Swami. He was Emperor of Sankirtan. He was a wonderful kirtan leader, Madhuvisa Swami. And in Prabhupada's time and in the early 1980s, he did a lot of preaching, and he helped to establish Krishna consciousness movement in Australia. He was actually from USA, and he had gone to India with Prabhupada, and then Prabhupada had sent him to Australia, and he did wonderful preaching there. And he inspired many, many young men to take up Krishna consciousness. And they also have a beautiful temple like in Melbourne. The temple which they have in Melbourne is due to Madhuvisa Swami, that he played a major role in securing that property. So Prabhupada recognized devotees, he gave them the credit for these things. And you can see also His Holiness Swarup Damodar Maharaj for preaching to scientists. Prabhupada encouraged him to preach to the scientists. Preach to the scientists that life comes from life, not from chemicals. So this is Lord Chaitanya's movement. Nobody likes to take credit for themselves. They like to give credit to others. Right? Can you think of any other examples? Okay, we'll go ahead.
Maharaj, when Srila Prabhupada wrote Nectar of Instruction, he gave credit to Srila Rupa Goswami.
Oh. He what?
Or and he gave that credit to Srila Rupa Goswami. He didn't take the credit. When he wrote Krishna book, he gave credit he dedicated that Krishna book to his father, Gaur Mohan.
Yes, right. Yes, he dedicated the Krishna book to his father. And he dedicated the Bhagavad Gita to Baladeva Vijayabhusan.
Yes. And Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he also gave credit to... Sorry, Maharaj.
Who did Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami give credit to?
Maharaj, unable to remember. He gave to whom he gave credit to write Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Rupa Raghunath. Rupa and Raghunath were the ones who inspired him. At the end of every chapter,
Yes, yes.
Rupa and Raghunath are mentioned. Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami. They're mentioned at the end of every chapter.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay, a little question for you. Discuss a time when you became Krishna's instrument and accomplished a task that was ordinarily beyond your capability. What happened? How did you feel? What general principles can you draw from your experience? You accomplished a task that was ordinarily beyond your capability. Sometimes we're put into these situations, we have to do something, we feel ourselves very unqualified. And we want to hear, you know, if you could actually accomplish something, you could actually do it. Just like sometimes we go out to make life members, try to make life members. Sometimes the temple would be in difficulty, there's no money in the temple. And they say you have to go out and collect some money. Very difficult. The temple had no money. They're totally dependent on some collection coming from life membership or something. And you have to go out, you have to raise funds. And so you have to depend on Krishna. Sometimes it can be very difficult, but somehow, by the grace of Krishna, somehow it happens. Somebody comes and they want to be a life member and you're able to help. So, I remember one time there was one devotee, he was trying to enroll life members, and one man didn't want to become a life member. And so the devotee was feeling very frustrated because the man said, no, I don't want to become a life member. The devotee said, okay, then we'll just close the temple. If you don't want to be the life member, we'll just close down the temple. We won't have a temple here at all. And so the man laughed. He said, well, just because I don't become a life member, you're going to close the temple? He said, what is this? He said, no, come on. The man was more convinced than the devotee. The devotee was saying, we'll just close the temple. You don't want to help, you don't want to become a life member. But the man said, no need to close the temple. You just have to find somebody else. Just like when we go for book distribution and you offer a book to someone and they don't take a book, you keep going, you don't give up. You don't think, oh, nobody wants a book. You just keep going till you find somebody who takes the book. And there's a saying that when somebody refuses the book, then you're one person nearer to somebody taking the book. If somebody doesn't take the book, then you're one person nearer to somebody taking the book. So do you have any experiences where you really became an instrument beyond your capability? Maybe you have to... Yes, go ahead, Maraji. Yes?
It's not like a very big thing, but I made my father a life member by telling him that if you won't get a life membership now, it is going to get doubled very soon. It is, for now example X, and it is going to be twice of the amount it is right now, and there are so many benefits. So then he immediately gave me the money for the membership thing.
Oh, very nice, yeah. Was he favorable to you becoming a devotee?
Yes, Maharaj, they were favorable.
No, okay.
Earlier, but then they were very smooth and favorable.
Nice. Sometimes we're faced, you have to cook the feast. You know, you're put in charge of the kitchen, you have to cook the feast. Oh my God, oh no. And there's so many devotees, and if I mess it up, everybody will be angry with me. Oh, it can be a challenge. I remember one time I was a new devotee, and the devotee told me, he said, you have to make some sweet rice for breakfast. You know, and it was a big temple. There were many devotees. There's more than 100 devotees. So we had to have a huge big pot of sweet rice to cook the sweet rice for the breakfast. But I was saying, oh, I'm afraid. I said, it may burn. If I burn the sweet rice, it will be horrible and everybody will complain. Nobody will like it. And the man in charge of the kitchen, devotee in charge of the kitchen, he looked at me and said, you're in Maya, Prabhu. You know, he told me, he said, you're in Maya. You got to surrender. You got to. So anyway, I got myself together and I cooked, and fortunately it came out okay. Everybody said it was all right, no problem. So I felt better that, well, I did my best. So you have to be confident, you have to have faith in Krishna and try your best, depend on Krishna. There was one man, he was Prabhupada, he was a godbrother of Prabhupada. He was a brahmachari, elderly man, Anand Babu. And when the devotees were there in Vrindavan, sometimes Anand would come and he would cook for the devotees. So devotees, they really liked the prasadam, and Anand, he would cook, and then he would come and he would serve the prasadam to the devotees as well. And devotees would be so overwhelmed, they'd say, oh Anand Prabhu, your cooking is so nice. And he would say, if it tastes good, then thank Krishna. But if it's not good, then blame me. So that's the idea. We should think like that. If it tastes good, then thank Krishna. But if it's not good, it's our fault.
Maharaj, shall I share one thing?
Yes?
Maharaj, for some time I worked in a hotel. So there I did book distribution, and it was like one-to-one book distribution. And I found that most of the persons there, most of them took Bhagavad Gita, Maharaj. Most of them. And I was very afraid that in 5-star hotel, everything is like someone is butcher, all are non-vegetarian, and the culture is very bad there. So, but yes, at that time, I was realizing that it is so, it means like at that time I was really able to see that Krishna resides in the heart of every soul. We just, and he gives, I was also thinking, I was very afraid to give that, what will they feel like, this and that. But I know, I remember, Maharaj, even boy, male, female, everybody, and they were very happy. 2 or 4 didn't take, the percentage was very less, but most of them took, and it was really good. And for this, I was not very motivated to do in my hotel. I could go out and that was okay for me. But where I was working and doing there, it was little challenging for me. So, but one Mataji motivated me, you just go. She somehow she said that you take Bhagavad Gita with you. I put that in my locker, and when somebody comes in the locker room, like to have a break or something, so I started approaching. So it was really good, and I could feel that yes, there is Krishna only who is giving inspiration to them.
Ah, very nice. Yes, good. Yeah, sometimes you try to do a difficult thing, and then Krishna reciprocates, he helps. Just the other morning, I was I met with a devotee. He's also my godbrother, Prabhupada disciple, and he was telling me when he was on the Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan party. And so he was a very young man at the time, and he was telling me, he said he was in one of the buses traveling around USA, and they were meant to go out on book distribution every day and do book distribution. So it happened one day devotee told him, he said, you know, you can take rest for a while. There's nothing much out here. There's not many people around. You can just take a rest for a while. And so he went in the vehicle and he fell asleep, and, you know, he took more rest than he should have taken. So he didn't get much Sankirtan done that day. And when he went back, then Tamal Krishna Maharaj was there. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj saw the scores and he said, oh, he said, you only collected $17? He said, look, he said, if you're going to be on this party, you have to do more than that. Otherwise, you can go to the temple and stay in the temple and just wash pots and clean the floor there in the temple. You don't need to be out here on Sankirtan if this is all you can collect. So the devotee said, he said, after he said that to me, he said, then from then on, every day I would work really hard, and I would usually collect $100 or more. And so he said that was what happened, you know. He was pushed by Tamal Krishna Maharaj. He told him, you want to be out here, you want to be out with us on the party, you have to collect more than what you're doing.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
Maharaj, I wanted to share one realization, not only for the difficult services, but I think it has happened many times with me for many services that if before the service, if I am able to actually feel from my heart that this is something which I cannot perform very well without the mercy of Krishna, and when I completely am faithful about this fact that I am actually depending upon Krishna's mercy to accomplish this service, then that service is actually performed very successfully and beautifully. And whenever I feel that my consciousness is that I am getting attached or feeling that I am the doer, and I will very definitely I'll do well because I know how to do this service very nicely. Many times it happens that I realize that I'm not able to do it, even if it was a small service, but still I'm not able to do it very nicely if my consciousness is not very correct.
Yeah, Krishna's teaching us, right? We have to have the right consciousness. We really have to depend on Krishna. Okay, we'll go ahead. Here's text 34. Right, someone like to read the verse?
द्रोणं च भीष्मं च जयद्रथ च कर्ण तथा यान् अपि योधवीरान् माया हतांस्त्वं जाहि मयावतिष्ठा युध्यस्व जेतसि रणे सप्तनान्. Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna and the other great warriors have already been destroyed by me. Therefore, kill them and do not be disturbed. Simply fight and you will vanquish your enemies in battle.
So Krishna is encouraging Arjuna, just kill them, don't be disturbed, just fight. He doesn't want Arjuna to get too mental about the whole thing. So that's important for us, that if we get too mental, we start to think, I'm the doer. But Krishna's encouraging Arjuna, just do your duty. Go out there and fight. They've already been destroyed by me. So fight in the detached manner. Now when we're detached, then we do much better. If we can actually detach ourselves from the results and simply attach ourselves to Krishna, then you can do much better. The more, I always find when I try to do something well, I mess it up. I can't do it. But sometimes without thinking about it, you just come along, you just do it. You do it really good. But the more mental you get, the more difficult it becomes. So conquering the mind. All right, so Krishna has explained his mission. Now Arjuna is going to offer his prayers. So this is 35 up to 46, and we're going to hear this very nice verse. Do you know this verse? You should know it. It's a famous verse, actually. It's probably the most famous verse in this chapter. Saketi madva prasabam yaduktam Hey Krishna, Hey Yadava, Hey Saketi Ajanata Mahimanam Tavedam Maya Pradadat Pranayena Vapi. Thinking of you as my friend, I have rashly addressed you. O Krishna, O Yadava, O my friend, not knowing your glories, please forgive whatever I may have done in madness or in love. I have dishonored you many times, jesting as we relaxed, lay on the same bed, or sat or ate together, sometimes alone and sometimes in front of many friends. O infallible one, please excuse me for all those offenses. Are you familiar with this verse?
Yes, Maharaj.
Good. Yes, it's an important verse. So Arjuna saying, oh, hey Krishna, hey Yadava, hey Saketi, I rashly addressed you. Arjuna was rash in addressing Krishna, and we'll hear why. It's explained to us what was happening. All right? Someone can read this for us?
Srila Vishwa...
Yes, one person.
Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that Arjuna is lamenting his previous over-familiar relationship with Krishna. For example, he would usually call Krishna, Krishna, and not the more honorific Sri Krishna. Arjuna's referring to Krishna as Krishna also indicates that Krishna is the son of Vasudeva, who was merely a minister, whereas Arjuna's father, Pandu, was a great warrior. Similarly, Arjuna, a member of the royal Pandav dynasty, would refer to Krishna as Yadav, a member of the family unable to rule. Furthermore, Arjuna would at times say, "Oh my friend," as if being condescendingly kind, "Although I am superior to you, out of my affection I accept you as my friend." Now, aware of Krishna's actual position, Arjuna feels ashamed and begs forgiveness.
Thank you. Yes, so, did you pick it all up? Instead of saying Sri Krishna, he simply addressed him as Krishna. So he didn't give much respect to Krishna. And then Arjuna is referring to, indicates that Krishna is the son of Vasudeva. Vasudev's just simply, he's not a Maharati. Vasudev's not a great warrior. He's a Kshatriya, but he's not a Maharati. And so Arjuna's, kind of putting Krishna into and addressing him in that way, it's not very respectful. He's pointing out, Krishna, your father, Vasudeva, he's just a minister, just a politician. He's not a Maharati. But Pandu, Arjuna's father, he was a great fighter. And so then also, hey Krishna, hey Yadava. Arjuna also addresses Krishna as Yadava. Though the Yadava family, they didn't have any kingdom. The Yadu dynasty, where was their kingdom? That was why Krishna moved everyone out to Dwarka. So they were a family unable to rule. So by addressing him in that way, it was like diminishing the position of Lord Krishna. And it wasn't a proper way to respect Krishna. And then he says, "Oh, hey Saketi, oh my friend, I'll let you be my friend." It's like I'm being very kind to you. I'm allowing you to be my friend. But now Arjuna understands his foolishness and he feels ashamed. and he's begging Krishna to forgive him. So sometimes we do like that. Sometimes, we act in condescending ways. We didn't give proper respect to someone. So maybe you can try this. How many people are here in the class tonight?
12, Maharaj.
Okay, so 6 pairs. So ask the following. Arjuna begged forgiveness for offenses that he committed out of ignorance. Do we sometimes commit offenses out of ignorance, especially when we are new devotees? Share remembrances of such times and what we can learn from such experiences. Okay? Try. See what you can come up with. Sampada Mataji, you can put everyone into pairs?
Yes, Maharaj. I've opened all the breakout rooms.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Devotees, please accept the request.
Okay, I think everyone can come back, Maharaji.
Yes, Maharaj, let me close. Everybody's back, Maharaj.
All right, thank you. Oh, yes? Who's Vijayavati Mataji? Who's Vijayavati Devi Dasi?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Mataji. Could you tell us what you discussed there?
Maharaj, we discussed that it happened with me, with one devotee, that I had some complaint for one of my senior devotee. So although I had a good relation with that devotee, but still I had certain things which I was not able to communicate to that devotee. So I went to a super senior and I communicated to that devotee. But somehow when the senior came to know that I communicated something, uh, then that devotee was very upset, and that devotee came to me and told me that you should have talked to me first, and uh, you should like that I would say something like this. So that day, she was very upset with me, and that day I realized that before talking to a third person, first maybe I can try to resolve with that devotee. I should build up some courage and humbly, with a very good intention and prayfully, I can go to that devotee and try to resolve with that devotee, and then things can easily change. The misconceptions and the things can resolve. But if we sometimes involve a third person, then that devotee might get hurt.
Okay, very nice. Yeah, that's good. Thank you so much. That was a good experience, yeah. Anyone else who'd like to share with us what you discussed? What about Priya Mukunda Das Prabhu? Hare Krishna.
Same breakout room, Maharaj. So
You were in the same breakout room with Maharaji?
yes, no, my wife Maharaj, Priya Satyabhama. So she was in the same breakout room. So we were just recounting the number of offenses committed by us. On a serious note, Maharaj, so I have the savor of doing auditing and review of some of the centers. So I was just sharing during our the audits that we conduct and the reviews that we conduct, invariably we end up committing pointing out faults in devotees, or how the management is being conducted in several temples. So I guess Maharaj, that's I don't have any what do you call it, end how this has been resolved. So there is no resolution as such right now, because this is an ongoing service, and even right now, Maharaj, I was just discussing with a colleague a report on ISKCON Vrindavan. So I guess Maharaj.
It's a very challenging job you've got.
Yes, yes Maharaj.
I don't-
Keep Aparaj.
I don't think you get too many friends that way.
So Maharaj, you do get to have friends, but then they remain friends, till the time you issue a report. Once you issue a report, then they're no longer your friend.
Right, that's what I think, yeah.
Yes, Maharaj.
I'm sure. Difficult.
Yes, Maharaj.
Maharaj is looking after the internal audit department of ISKCON Mayapur as well.
Oh, okay. But I'm sure you got big problems then.
Yes, Maharaj.
Huge problems. I don't know much about it, but I hear things, I hear.
Some of them probably emanate from our desk, Maharaj. So.
Yeah, it's an important job, but it's definitely not a job which is appreciated. Okay, so we'll go ahead. Let me see, where are we? Yeah. Okay, text 46. Oh, we jumped a bit, right? We were hearing Arjuna's prayers. So Arjuna is offering his prayers. Text 46. O universal form, O thousand-armed Lord, I wish to see you in your four-arm form, with helmeted head and with club, wheel, conch, and lotus flower in your hands. I long to see you in that form. So Arjuna is expressing his desire to see Krishna in his four-arm form. He's seen the universal form, right? It mentions here, thousand-armed Lord. I've seen, oh, universal form, thousand-armed Lord. I want to see your four-arm form. It's a bit like, that pastime where Lord Krishna was fighting with Banasura, and Banasura had 1,000 arms. And he came out to fight with Lord Krishna. And then Lord Krishna cut off his arms and left him with 4 arms. So here, Arjuna is requesting Lord Krishna that I've seen your 1,000-arm form, I just want to see your 4-arm form now. So Prabhupada's purport, someone like to read for me, please?
Arjuna knew that.
Hare Krishna.
Arjuna knew that Krishna is the only personality of Godhead, assuming his temporary universal form. He is now asking to see the form of Narayan, a spiritual form. This verse establishes without any doubt the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and all other features originate from him. He is not different from his planetary expansions, and he is God in any of his innumerable forms. In all these forms, he is fresh like a young man. He is the constant feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who knows Krishna becomes free at once from all contamination of the material world.
Okay, thank you. So it's an important point here. Right? You can see the universal form is a temporary form, and it's not a spiritual form. Lord Krishna wants to see the form of Narayan, which is a spiritual form. But the form of the Virata Rup, that is not a spiritual form. It's a material form. So Prabhupada also uses this statement, this verse, to establish that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and that the other features, like the universal form, they're coming from him. What to speak of the universal form, the Paramatma and the Brahman, is all coming from Krishna. And even this 4-arm form, this is also coming from the original form, which is the 2-arm form. Of course, this is disputed, of course. You get people like the other Sampradayas, the Sri Vaishnavas, they say Narayana is the Supreme Lord. They don't worship Krishna. They say Krishna is an avatar. but they say Narayana is the original Supreme Lord. So they worship the Lord in Aishwarya. But we base everything on the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Ete Chamsa Kalapumsa, Krishna's to Bhagavan Swayam. We give great importance to Srimad Bhagavatam, whereas the Sri Sampradaya, like other, they're more they talk more of the Puranas and the Mahabharata and like that. Okay, the final section of this chapter, 47 to 55. Only pure devotees can see Krishna's two-armed form. Text 48. Someone like to read for us who has not read yet? So nobody wants to read?
Waiting for somebody else to read.
Maharaja.
But
न
he reads.
वेद्यज्ञेऽधिनिर्न दानिर्न च क्रियाभिर्न तपोभिरुग्रै एवं रूपः शक्य अहं निलोके द्रष्टुं त्वदन्येन कुरु प्रवीरा. O best of the Kuru warriors, no one before you has ever seen this universal form of mine. For neither by studying the Vedas, nor by performing sacrifices, nor by charity, nor by pious activities, nor by severe penances, can I be seen in this form in the material world.
All right. So, how we can see Krishna? No one before you has ever seen this universal form of mine. So this was a special form, the universal form, which was shown there at Kurukshetra. That was the special form. Although there were other universal forms, it wasn't the same as the form which Krishna revealed at Kurukshetra. There were other incidents, just like Mother Yashoda saw the universal form in Krishna's mouth. And then you had also Lord Krishna when he went to deliver the message to Dhritarashtra, and Duryodhana tried to arrest him. So at that time then Krishna also revealed the universal form. But the form actually seen by Arjuna here at Kurukshetra, that was a different form. It was a special form. And Lord Krishna's explaining that all of these other different processes, studying the Vedas or charity, sacrifice, pious activities, these are not going to allow you to see this form in the material world. Yes, Prabhupada explained. Someone can read this section?
Police officer firing.
Oh, sorry. Oh, lost it. Yeah?
Police officer firing a revolver. Suppose a boy's father.
What happened? It's unstable. Yeah, go ahead.
Suppose a boy's father is a police officer. So if the father comes as a police officer firing a revolver, even the child will forget loving father. You see? So naturally the child loves father when he's at home, just like father. Similarly, we love Krishna as he is Shyamasundar. The Vishwarup was shown to Arjun to warn the rascal humanity. Because Krishna said, I am God. Imitating Krishna, so many rascals declaring that I am God. Therefore Arjun said, please show me your Vishwarupa, so that these rascals may also ask him to show his Vishwarupa. So if you are God, please show me your Vishwarupa.
Okay. Bhagavad Gita, Los Angeles lecture in 1969. That was a lecture on the 6th chapter. Actually, Prabhupada, I could never find any lecture Prabhupada ever gave on the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Somehow Prabhupada just didn't lecture on it. The verse which he lectured most on was 7.1, the first verse of the 7th chapter, more than any other verse. Prabhupada lectured on that verse. But the 11th chapter, Prabhupada didn't touch it. He didn't get into it at all. Okay, then text number 50. Sanjaya Uvacha.
Sanjay Uvacha iti Arjunam Vasudeva tathoktva swakam rupam darshyam as bhuyah asvashyam as cha bhitam enam bhutva punah Soumya Vapur Mahatma. Sanjay said to Dhritarashtra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, having spoken thus to Arjuna, displayed his real four-armed form and at last showed his two-armed form, thus encouraging the fearful Arjuna. Hare Krishna.
Right? So that Soumya Vapu, this is the sweet two-armed form of Lord Krishna. So this is the special way in which this two-armed form is described here in this section. Yes? Someone can read, please.
When Krishna appeared as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, he first of all appeared as four-armed Narayana. But when he was requested by his parents, he transformed himself into an ordinary child in appearance. Similarly, Krishna knew that Arjuna was not interested in seeing a four-handed form. But since Arjuna asked to see this four-handed form, Krishna also showed him this form again and then showed himself in his two-handed form.
So Arjuna was not interested in seeing the four-handed form, but he did ask, didn't he? He asked Krishna to show that four-armed form. But Prabhupada said Arjuna wasn't interested, but because he asked to see it, Krishna showed it. He asked to see it, but he wasn't interested to see it. So why did he ask to see it? What was his reason?
To give evidence to the atheist people about the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who doesn't believe in Krishna, and to give evidence to all the people who doesn't believe in Krishna, who thinks that Krishna is just an ordinary person and a great personality, to give all those people evidence, not for a devotee.
Well, I don't know if he'd be able to convince all the people so easily. I thought more the reason why he came with the four-armed form was that that's for the devotees, to show them that actually the four-armed form also comes from him. Just as the universal form comes from him, the four-armed form comes, but the original form is his two-armed form.
Sorry, Maharaj, I gave example for, I'm sorry, I gave answer for Vishwaroop too, why he showed his Vishwaroop form. Okay, the answer for four-armed Narayana is, yes, Maharaj, which is coming in my mind, that everybody is not so fortunate to, before, as we know that before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and before Madhavendra Puri, we were not used to worship Radha and Krishna. So by their mercy, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has unlocked that prema, that the love of Godhead, which is never ever, which was not given earlier. So that is very rare. And before that, everybody used to worship Narayan form, four-handed form of Krishna only. If we go to South India, all those people worship Lakshmi Narayan, Krishna's four-handed form. So, but now, by the mercy of Shad Goswamis, Srila Rupa Goswami, we just read that in Nectar of Devotion, that about Akhil Rasamrit Murti hi. So, those people, so everybody has a different rasa taste. So, those people who worship Krishna with the Aishwarya Bhava. So Krishna can show, they like Krishna's four-armed form, Narayana form. And we also hear the description of Narayan form of Krishna. That is also so beautiful. When the second last chapter of Krishna book, when Lord Vishnu stole all the boys of that Brahmana, and he wanted to see Krishna. But that description here comes that Narayan also so beautiful. He also wear costume money, like. So this was my answer. Like, to those who want to worship him in a Aishwarya Bhav. So he.
Yes, right. They want Aishwarya Bhav, right. And some people like that better. They're more attracted to the Aishwarya Bhav feature. Well, it's interesting that when we see Lord Chaitanya, when Lord Chaitanya went to Sri Rangam, and he was staying there in Sri Rangam with
Chal Hare Krishna.
Lord Chaitanya was staying in Sri Rangam with that family, the Bhatta, Gopal Bhatta's family there, and Lord Chaitanya would discuss with them, because they were Sri Vaishnavas, of course. So Lord Chaitanya would ask them about, he spoke more about Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. He didn't speak about comparing the four-armed form of Narayan to the two-armed form of Krishna, but he spoke more about the mood of Lakshmi, that Lakshmi was trying to enter into rasa dance with Lord Krishna, but she could never do it. Because Venkatabhata, he was telling Lord Chaitanya, well, Krishna and Vishnu, it's the same, they're the same. He was trying to say like that. But then Lord Chaitanya pointed out, well, there are some differences, And he talked about Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, how much she wanted to be with Krishna. And she's very chaste, but she wanted to be with Krishna, but she could never do it. So Lord Chaitanya impressed upon Venkatabhata the superiority of the form of Lord Krishna with his consort Srimati Radharani and the Gopis of Vrindavan over Lord Narayan with his consorts in Vaikuntha. So it's a different mood. And the mood of Krishna is more Madhurya, whereas the form of Narayan is more Aishwarya. And where there's Madhurya, there will be less Aishwarya. And where there's Aishwarya, there's less Madhurya. So devotees of Krishna, they're more attracted to the Madhurya than the Aishwarya. But then some devotees, they do like Krishna and Dwarka. They're attracted by Krishna and Dwarka. So there is room for everyone in Krishna consciousness. Krishna is Akila Rasamrita Murti. All the rasas are there in Krishna. Whatever mood you have, you can find it in Krishna. Okay. Text number 52. Someone read?
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sudurdarsham idam rupam drishtavan asiyan mama deva api asya rupasya nityam darshana kanshinaha. The Supreme Personalities of Godhead said, my dear Arjun, this form of mine you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form, which is so dear.
What form is this?
Four-handed form.
Text number 52. The four-handed form? Is it? I don't think it's a... No, it's not the four-handed form, is it?
A universal form, Maharaj.
To Maharaj, yeah, here it is written in the purport. Now here the word Su Dur Darsham is used, indicating that Krishna's two-handed form is still more confidential.
Yes, right.
Prabhupada is mentioning.
Yes, right. Yeah. So I'll just read the purport. In the 48th verse of this, in the 48th verse of this chapter, Lord Krishna concluded revealing his universal form and informed Arjuna that this form is not possible to be seen by so many pious activities, sacrifices, etc. Now, here the word Sudurdarsham is used, indicating that Krishna's two-handed form is still more confidential. One may be able to see the universal form of Krishna by adding a little tinge of devotional service to various activities like penances, Vedic study, and philosophical speculation. It may be possible, but without a tinge of bhakti, one cannot see. That has already been explained. Still, beyond that universal form, the form of Krishna with two hands is still more difficult to see, even for demigods like Brahma and Lord Shiva. They desire to see him. And we have evidence in the Srimad Bhagavatam that when he was supposed to be in the womb of his mother, Devaki, all the demigods from heaven came to see the marvel of Krishna. And they offered nice prayers to the Lord. Although he was not at that time visible to them, they waited to see him. A foolish person may deride him, thinking him an ordinary person, and may offer respect not to him, but to the impersonal something within him. But these are all nonsensical postures. Krishna, in his two-armed form, is actually desired to be seen by demigods like Brahma and Shiva. In Bhagavad Gita 9:11, who remembers that verse? 9:11? You remember 9:11? Now you remember.
Param bhavo mam jananto mam bhut maheshwaram.
Right, yes. So he is not visible to the foolish persons who deride him. Krishna's body, as confirmed by Brahma Samhita and confirmed by Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita, is completely spiritual and full of bliss and eternality. His body is never like a material body. But for some who make a study of Krishna by reading Bhagavad Gita or similar Vedic scriptures, Krishna is a problem. For one using a material process, Krishna is considered to be a great historical personality and very learned philosopher, but he is an ordinary man. And even though he was so powerful, he had to accept a material body. Ultimately, they think that the absolute truth is impersonal. Therefore, they think that from his impersonal feature, he assumed a personal feature attached to material nature. This is a materialistic calculation of the Supreme Lord. Another calculation is speculative. Those who are in search of knowledge also speculate on Krishna and consider him to be less important than the universal form of the Supreme. Thus, some think that the universal form of Krishna, which was manifest to Arjuna, is more important than his personal form. According to them, the personal form of the Supreme is something imaginary. They believe that in the ultimate issue, the absolute truth is not a person, but the transcendental process is described in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, to hear about Krishna from authorities. That is the actual Vedic process. And those who are actually in the Vedic line hear about Krishna from authority. And by repeated hearing about him, Krishna becomes dear. As we have several times discussed, Krishna is covered by his Yogamaya potency. He is not to be seen or revealed to anyone and everyone. Only by one to whom he reveals himself can he be seen. This is confirmed in Vedic literature. For one who is a surrendered soul, the absolute truth can actually be understood. The transcendentalist, by continuous Krishna consciousness and by devotional service to Krishna, can have his spiritual eyes opened and can see Krishna by revelation. Such a revelation is not possible even for the demigods. Therefore, it is difficult even for the demigods to understand Krishna, and the advanced demigods are always in hope of seeing Krishna in his two-handed form. The conclusion is that although to see the universal form of Krishna is very, very difficult and not possible for anyone and everyone, it is still more difficult to understand the personal form of Shyam Sundar. The very elaborate purport, and Prabhupada's explaining a lot of important points there. It's like an essay there. It's a beautiful purport. It's like the whole summary of our Krishna conscious philosophy on the position of Lord Krishna. So it's very clearly explained there for us, the position of Lord Krishna, and which form is actually being described here, which is so dear.
Shyama Sundar.
Jai. Shyam Sundar ki jai. Okay, we read all this. Going on to text number 54. A nice verse, important verse.
Bhaktya tva ananya sakhya aham evam vido arjuna gyatum drishtum cha tatvena praveshtum cha parantapa. My dear Arjun, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding.
So
Maharaj.
Yes.
Maharaj, when this verse was coming, previous verse which we read, I was remembering Premanjan Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. So with the ointment of love in the eyes, one can see the Shyama Sundar.
Okay.
How right is this, Maharaj?
Well, it's right, but it's very rare that you get that love.
Maharaj, in the higher stage also not possible.
What, to get that ointment, to get that prema?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, Maharaj.
Well, like we said, you got to have prem. If you're on that level of prema bhakti, then okay.
Yes, ma'am, but process is this like that one day we will be, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, we will be able to, goal of life is only to get Krishna prem. So
Yeah.
then that, okay, that in that stage only this happens like Premanjan Shurita.
Yes, you have to have prem. Yes. Like Lord Brahma say, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Krishna Shyam Sundar himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotee sees within the heart of hearts, with the eye of devotion, tinged with the salve of love. So our eyes have to have that prema bhakti. If we don't have that prema bhakti, then we're not qualified to see Krishna in the heart. That's Krishna in the heart of hearts. To actually see, so to see that form, we have to have that prema. We have to, the ointment of love. And so to come to that level of prema bhakti, you know, it's way up there. You know, it's a long way. We got to go through a lot of things to come up there to prema bhakti. We've got to get through anartha nivritti, and we've got to get through nishta and ruchi, and asakti and bhava. Bhava is just the seed, the beginning of prema. So it's way up there. But that's a qualification.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Maharaj. Now I come to know that is of prema stage, Varsa. Thank you.
All right, so this is one of the important verses that Krishna is saying. We've got to have undivided devotional service, ananya bhakti, and then we can actually understand Krishna. Who can be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mystery of my understanding. And then Krishna's concluding verse of this chapter. Yes, someone read.
Mat karma krin mat parmo mat bhakta sanghavarjitah nirvaira sarva bhuteshu yasa mam eti pandava. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotion service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me.
All right. So 5 points are mentioned here in this verse. 5 points. What are the 5 points? What's the first one? Yes, Maraji? 1 point from this verse?
One who engages in my pure devotional service.
Okay, so first point, you have to engage in Krishna's pure devotional service. Then?
Shall I tell Maharaj second?
Yeah.
Okay. One who is free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation.
All right.
Third, one who works for Krishna.
Yes.
And who makes Krishna the supreme goal of his life.
Okay.
And last, one who is friendly to every living being.
Okay. Yes, so there are 5 points there in that verse. First of all, we have to engage in pure devotional service. Pure, not mixed devotional service. There's an interesting book written by Shivaram Swami Maharaj, and he talks about how we talk about devotional service, but for most of us, our devotional service is mixed. But he said the real standard is to come to the level of pure devotional service. That book is called Shuddhanam Chintamani. So he's talking about the need, he's describing how actually we have to come to pure devotional service. But in general, our devotional service is mixed with our material desires. And so Lord Krishna mentions here what he wants to Arjuna. We should be free from the contamination. So contamination of fruitive activities and mental speculation. So fruitive activities, the desire to enjoy the material world, we're looking for something from our devotional service. We have some material desires. We want to have a comfortable situation maybe in the material world. We want everything to be very smooth and pleasant and easy for us. That's it, the mood. Fruitive desires. Or mental speculation, that's philosophical speculation, generally we think about liberation from the material world, getting out from this world, entering into the oneness or the Brahmajyoti. And then Krishna said, he who works for me. So devotional service is about activity, working for Krishna, not being idle. Prabhupada always wanted to know. He would come to a temple and he would ask, how many books have you distributed? How many devotees have you made? And how many properties have you acquired? You know? So, you know, that Prabhupada was concerned. He wanted to know, how much are we pushing on Krishna consciousness? We're working for Krishna. There should be results. And the results should be there in the form that we distribute a lot of books, and we make a lot of devotees, and we expand the Krishna consciousness movement by having more properties. And Prabhupada he expected that. That was a positive sign to Prabhupada, that the devotees are working hard for Krishna. He wanted to see results. And he really pushed people to get things done. You know, we would distribute books, and then Prabhupada would say, now double it. He didn't say, oh, well done. He said, now double it. 1 year, after we'd done 1 year, Prabhupada, we did it, we distributed it. Then he said, now double it next year. This was Prabhupada's mood. One devotee was saying to Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada, we should just have a small temple like, you know, something like Radha Damodar in Vrindavan. He said, no need to build a big place. Let's just get a little place like what Rupa Goswami had. Jiva Goswami was there at Radha Damodar. We get a place like that. But Prabhupada said, no. He said, I cannot think like that. He said, I cannot think small. I have to do something big. And you can read Shyam Sundar's book. Shyam Sundar Prabhu wrote very nicely about his travels with Prabhupada and chasing rhinos with the Swamiji. And the rhinos, of course, are something big, doing something big, you know, going for the top, thinking big, not thinking small. So working for Krishna means you have to do something significant for Krishna. Makes me the supreme goal of his life. We have to be focused on that way, the goal of life. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Prem Punarto Mahan. Goal of life is to develop love of God. So the goal of life is to develop this mood to come to Krishna, to be with Krishna, and to please Krishna, to give pleasure to Krishna, and who is friendly to every living being. And so seeing Krishna within the hearts of all living entities. One time I went with Prabhupada, we went to a temple, a Hindu temple in London, and there was a big pictures of Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. So I remember Prabhupada saying that a devotee of Krishna not only sees Krishna in Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, a devotee of Krishna will see Krishna in the heart of even the tiniest insect, like an ant. That was Prabhupada's realization. So Prabhupada had that mood to be friendly to every living entity. If sometimes the devotee would go into Prabhupada's room and start killing all the mosquitoes, and Prabhupada would chastise him and say, don't make my room into a crematorium. You're killing all the mosquitoes. At the same time, you know, Prabhupada had to be in the room. He doesn't want to be disturbed all the time by mosquitoes. Okay, so from the purport, anyone who wants to approach the Supreme of all the personalities of Godhead on the Krishna Loka planet in the spiritual sky and be intimately connected with the Supreme Personality, Krishna, must take this formula as stated by the Supreme Himself. Therefore, this verse is considered to be the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Oh, you got another essence of Bhagavad Gita here. Before we had the Chatur Sloki, that was also essence, and here again, this verse also, we're connecting with Krishna through these words of Lord Krishna. We can be intimately connected with Krishna. Krishna herein gives Arjuna 5 powerful instructions on how to render pure devotional service. By executing these 5 instructions, a devotee can be carried to the Lord. Srila Prabhupada discusses each instruction in his purport. First of all, bhakti must be performed purely, mad bhakta. The devotee must fully engage in the 9 processes of devotional service. The only goal is Krishna's service with no desire for attainments in this world. This is a challenge. We have to focus the mind clearly. The only goal is Krishna's service. We are a service industry. There's always so many service industries, but generally the service industries, they're all, for sense gratification. They want profit, and we're thinking, what do we get out of it? But in Krishna consciousness, the only goal is service to Krishna. And what comes after service to Krishna? More service and more service. And the more we serve, the more we get service. And there's no end to service. And at the same time, there's no desire to get anything. Devotional service means finish up our business. With business, there's always give and take. You give something, give the goods, take the money, get the cash. But in Krishna consciousness, it's simply give, give, give. There's no question of expecting anything in return. Devotional service should be ahaitaki, right? It should be unmotivated. We don't want to be diverted. We want to be unmotivated in our devotional service. The pleasure is simply in serving Krishna and giving selfless service to Krishna. All right? Then the second one, someone can read, number 2.
Bhakti must be free from karma and jnana, sang varjitaha. A devotee should not associate with persons who are against Krishna, and he should not become attracted to anything but pure devotion. A devotee at the same time should not be envious of those who are inimical, because the karma of such a person has avoided him that mentality. Devotee should remain disentangled from such a person's karma.
Okay, it's important. What is your definition of pure devotional service?
Anyavilashitam shunyam jnana karma adhyanavitam anukulena krishnanushilinam bhaktiruttama.
Yes, right. Devotional service must be free from desires for fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. Right? We should act simply for the pleasure of Krishna. And Krishna means not only Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but all of Krishna's expansions and incarnations as well. Many different ways Krishna appears. So devotional service should be performed simply for the pleasure of Krishna. We should not be attracted to anything but pure devotion. And then we're warned not to be envious of those who are inimical. Of course, when we do devotional service, we'll often find that some people, not everybody's happy with us. people they'll complain. They don't like it. Oh, these people are always coming or disturbing us, or why like this? So there are people very envious, but we're told, don't be disturbed by it, because the karma of such a person has awarded him that mentality. So this point is being made here. This is from Barijan Prabhu's book, Surrender Unto Me. He's describing that people have that kind of karma. They just don't like devotees. They don't like what we're doing. They don't like religious people. They don't like people in these spiritual paths. You know, they're trying to enjoy their material life, and they're engaged in a lot of sinful activities, and they don't want to even think about it. And when they see people like us who are, you know, going around chanting Hare Krishna and teaching Bhagavad Gita, it disturbs them. They get really upset because they know they're in trouble and they're really against it. So we shouldn't get disturbed by them. We should understand that their karma is like that they have that mentality. So devotees should remain, he says, disentangled from such a person's karma. In other words, don't go and argue with them. Don't get into a big fight with him and try to defeat him. Just leave him. He has his karma. Leave him as he is. But if we try to get close to him and try to debate with him, it would just make the whole situation worse. So that's an important point. In our preaching, sometimes we have to do like that. We have to consider who is actually worthy of spending time with. Right? We're looking for the innocent people. We're not looking for people who are envious or who are blasphemers or who are, you know, out and out atheists and totally against all religion or all kinds of self-realization processes. So we have to be cautious and distinguish these different kinds of people and know how to deal with them appropriately. Right? Number 3.
The work of Bhaktas must be for Krishna. Mat karma krit. A devotee should use his energy fully in Krishna's service while remaining detached from the fruits of his work.
He should use his energy fully in Krishna's service. We want to work hard for Krishna. Prabhupada liked that. He liked to see the devotees work hard for Krishna. He didn't like to see the devotees just lay around, and especially the sannyasis who were traveling with Prabhupada. If he saw them sleeping, even after they'd had a long overnight flight, Prabhupada didn't like it. He said, "Why are you sleeping?" He said, "I'm not sleeping. Why are you sleeping?" And Prabhupada would really be chastising them. He wanted every devotee, they should work. Prabhupada asked about, there was this one woman in the temple, Prabhupada asked, "What service does she do?" And the devotee in charge of the temple, he said, "Well, Prabhupada, she doesn't do any service." She said it takes her all day to chant 16 rounds. So Prabhupada said, no, that cannot be. You cannot do like that. Everyone must do some service. She cannot just chant Hare Krishna all day. So Prabhupada liked everyone to be working, doing something for Krishna. He liked to see the devotees also do farming. He thought that was very pious, when they could work the land and produce crops and take care of the cows. That was very pleasing to Krishna. In Prabhupada's time, here in Mayapur, Prabhupada had a lot of cottage industry programs going on. The devotees were spinning and weaving, making gamshas and even making things like saris, dhotis. Prabhupada wanted devotees to do that. And he said that when the people have children, he said, let the children sit together, and you don't need many ladies to take care. The children can all be together and the ladies can be working. The ladies can be spinning the cloth and the children can be sitting together, play with each other. So Prabhupada liked the devotees to work, and when he saw that the land was not taken care of, Prabhupada would feel very upset. He said, why like this? Why nobody taking care? He said, everywhere else people have land and they're growing, they're cultivating something. And come to our land, there's nothing growing, just simply weeds. Why like this? So Prabhupada was very concerned that we must take care. Krishna gives you land, you must use it nicely, you must use it carefully. All right?
Krishna,
Yes?
Krishna must be the goal of life. Mat Paramaha. The devotee should remain unattracted to both heavenly and impersonal destinations.
Okay. Yes. Unattracted to both heavenly and impersonal destinations. That's the devotee of Krishna sees everywhere the same. Wherever you go, heaven, hell, or liberation, it's all the same to a devotee, because the devotee's business is the same. His business is to chant Hare Krishna, and to preach Krishna consciousness, and to distribute Krishna consciousness. I see that some devotees here in Mayapur, they come from the West. There's one devotee, every day he's got his Harinam party. He's got a Harinam party in Mayapur. They go around the Prabhupada's Samadhi, and they go around the TOVP with the Harinam Sankirtan party. Every day he's very happy to have a Sankirtan party. In the West he was also doing Sankirtan, and here he comes to Mayapur, he's doing Sankirtan. And another devotee, he's distributing books, because in the West all he did was distribute books. So he comes to Mayapur, he got himself a table, he gets some books and he puts them out on the table and he starts distributing books. So Prabhupada said a devotee is just like a threshing machine. He said, threshing machine, he said, wherever you put it, it does the same thing. So devotees like that. Wherever you put them, they do the same thing. There was it happened one time in Malaysia. Somehow some devotees were there and they were doing Sankirtan, but somehow the policeman came and arrested them all. And they arrested the devotees and put them in the cell. But then when they were in the cell, the devotees were just sitting chanting. So the policeman could understand, oh, they are devotees. The policemen were thinking they're not really devotees, they were thinking they were just fake, they were just pretending to be holy men. But when they saw them in the cell, they saw them just sit there and chant Hare Krishna, then they understood they are actually really devotees. And they let them out, let them go. Okay, and then the fifth thing, Mataji?
The devotee must be friendly to all, nirvairaha. He must compassionately desire to give Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So that's very important. Seeing Krishna in the heart of everyone, desiring to give Krishna to everyone, that's very nice quality of a devotee. Always thinking how to give Krishna. We can see devotees wherever they go. There's some devotees, wherever they go, they take prasadam with them. And whenever they get a chance, they will distribute prasadam. They'll give prasadam to people. It's very nice. One Maharaji was describing, she was driving her car, and somehow she had an accident with the car, and she hit this other car, but she gave the other man prasadam. and after she gave the man prasadam, then the man, he didn't worry about her car hitting him. He was happy he got prasadam. So we have to be compassionate, we have to be caring, think of how to give Krishna consciousness. All right? Yes? Someone read?
In summary, the universal form of Krishna, which is a temporary manifestation, and the form of time, which devours everything, and even the form of Vishnu, four-handed, have all been exhibited by Krishna. Thus, Krishna is the origin of all these manifestations. It is not that Krishna is a manifestation of the original Vishwarup or Vishnu. Krishna is the origin of all forms. There are hundreds and thousands of Vishnus, but for a devotee, no form of Krishna is important, but the original form, two-handed Shyama Sundar. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that those who are attached to the Shyam Sundar form of Krishna in love and devotion can see him always within the heart and cannot see anything else. One should understand, therefore, that the purport of this 11th chapter is that the form of Krishna is essential and supreme.
Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Let me see what happened. Yeah?
Now it's like Prabhupada mentions in the purport to this verse that this verse is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. But very rarely we hear this verse being quoted in any of the lectures given by Prabhupada. The last verse of the 11th chapter I'm talking about.
Well, it is rare, it is there sometimes. Yeah, it's not very common, but it is there.
Yeah, I mean, in 9.34, Prabhupada never mentioned this is the essence. But here in this verse, is specifically mentioned in the purpose that this verse is the essence. But generally, we always hear the 9.34 or 18.66. We never hear on this 11.55.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it comes up. Prabhupada does sometimes in lectures, he would talk about it. Occasion, not very often, but sometimes.
Okay. So, is there any difference between 9.34 or 11.55? Because generally in the 11.55 in this verse, we see many practical things. The 5 things that are mentioned, they are very practical. But in 9.34, Man Bana Bhagavan Bhakto, most of the things that we hear, they are either on an intellectual level or a mental level rather than on practical or a physical level.
Yes. Yeah, it's certainly, the 11th chapter is more practical. It seems to be, certainly it's good for preaching with, The verse at the end of chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge, that is not so clear. But somehow, Vyasadeva has put it there, right there at the end of 9th chapter, the heart of the Bhagavad Gita. So it's emphasized, and it's repeated twice, right? That verse which is at the end of the 9th chapter, it comes again in the 18th chapter. So it's certainly very significant.
Yes, Maharaj.
Manmana bhavan, right? Using your mind, engage our mind to think of Krishna. This verse in the 11th chapter doesn't speak so much about the mind, but it just simply says, you can see here, what does it say? Working for Krishna and engaging pure devotional self free from, he makes me the goal of life, friendly to everyone. Certainly, it's a very nice verse. It's the points are much more practical than what we would think. The 9th chapter, the confidential knowledge, the verse at the end of the 9th chapter, it seems to be more related to an individual's bhajan, but this verse is more about interaction with others. Whereas the most confidential knowledge in the 9th chapter is about the devotee on his own, that he offering obeisances, becoming a devotee, worshipping Krishna. But this verse here is much more about, it seems to be more of preaching, friendly to every living being. So that's very nice, a good point there, right? Which comes.
This, especially that verse, that NOD 11th verse, that Anyabilasha Shunyam. This verse is very much in resemblance with that, Anyabilasha Shunyam in comparison to that 9.34. Like here also it is mentioned that we should do devotional service devoid of, jnana and karma. And one should make Krishna the supreme goal of life, and we should be friendly to every living being. So in that sense also this is very much in resemblance to that verse instead of 9.3.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it's a good verse, this one. It's just that it's hidden away at the end of the 11th chapter, and the 11th chapter is not often something which devotees get into very deeply. But this verse is just stuck on the end of the 11th chapter.
Especially from the point of view of a sadhaka, I say this verse is more practical. Instead, the 9.34 verse is more practical for the devotees who are somewhat into Raganuga Bhakti or onto higher stages. So this is practical for everyone, even for the higher stages, and especially for those people like me who are on the lower stages.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, certainly. It's and you can see Prabhupada's purport is extensive to this verse also. It's a long purport, like 3 pages or so.
Yes, Maharaj.
So the last 2 verses, first of all, he's stressing devotion, and then how to actually devote ourselves. You could say this verse 55 is describing how we can actually devote ourselves. What should be our mood? How we, working for Krishna. Prabhupada talks. He said if you have a lot of money, you can build a temple for Krishna. He said you have a little piece of land, you can plant tulsi. If you have a little piece of land, just grow some tulsi on it, That's very nice. We see tulsi growing there, we feel, oh, it's a nice place, this is a holy place. Tulsi's growing.
Yes, Maharaj. In fact, this 9.11.5 for Bhakti Nani. This of course we often hear more often. This was Bhakti Nani.
Yes. Well, because Prabhupada's using it in his preaching, that only by devotion it can be understood. Prabhupada's making particular points, so we use it. But this 55, verse 55, is more for general preaching. There's a lot of, it's like you could say it's a good verse for preaching to the congregation with maybe a Sunday program lecture or something like that. You could bring it up then.
And even the devotees who are, not much concentrated on rendering practical service, they are just, more into Bhajananandi and not doing much practical service. For them also, I guess 11.55 is very much relevant.
Yes, right. Yeah, you're certainly picking up the good points on this verse. Prabhupada talks about Krishna karma in this purport, right? He said we have to do Krishna karma. He said no work should be done by any man except in relationship to Krishna. This is called Krishna karma. We may be engaged in various activities, but one should not be attached to the result. Result should be done only for him. And then Prabhupada talks about the businessman making thousands of dollars. He should offer it to Krishna. And some businessmen do that. We have some nice businessmen, they're contributing. And said, instead of constructing a big building for sense gratification, build a nice temple and install the deities and arrange for the deity service. Said, this is Krishna karma. And the result should be offered to Krishna, and we should accept prasadam. And he said, if you build a big house for Krishna and put the deity there, you can live there also. But the proprietor of the building is Krishna. So some devotees do that. You know, I heard in some places like that, there's couples, they have a house, and they may live upstairs, and the temple is downstairs, and they're living upstairs with their family. They have the temple downstairs. You know, generally, of course, Prabhupada said husband and wife shouldn't live in the temple together. But, you know, if they have a house, if it's their house, they can have a temple there. They have a house, their own house. It's not like an ashram. Husband and wife don't live together in the ashram, but if they have their house, you know, of course it's their own house, they can live together. And then Prabhupada said, if you can't build a temple for Krishna, then just help in cleaning the temple of Krishna. And then he talks about sowing tulsi, nice, very important. And he says, where Krishna says, patram pushpam palam toyam, he said that patram, that is tulsi. It refers to tulsi. So we can sow tulsi, pour water. Everyone can do service for Krishna. So this is working for Krishna. Some people are against work, they don't like work. Okay, any other questions?
Maharaj, I was also thinking that in the first line, Krishna is saying, he who engages in my pure devotional service. The first point was this. So Maharaj, one who engages in pure devotional service, so pure devotional service means like it means pure. So why Krishna is saying in the next point, free from the contamination of fruitive activities, like if some pure devotional service covers everything, na?
Yes, but he's just expanding on making it clear what he actually wants. Then one point he's saying do devotional service, pure devotional service, and then he's specifying what he means exactly by pure devotional service. He wants it. Nobody can say, well, I didn't know, I'm just doing devotional service. Well, I just thought I was serving Krishna, I didn't know. So Krishna makes it really clear what he means by pure devotional service. It means no desires, nothing else. And Bharijan Prabhu, he was talking about how we should feel about other people, you know, who may trouble us. And they may be nasty towards us, but we shouldn't get involved with them. Keep a distance. Remain disentangled from such people. Yeah, there will always be people objecting, whatever we try to do. We can never please everyone. We just want to please Krishna. If we can please Krishna and Guru, then our life is successful. We'll never be able to please everyone.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, so then Matpara, one considers the association of Krishna in his supreme abode to be the highest perfection of life. So we don't think about going to the heavenly planets. We're only interested in going to the spiritual world. We don't want to go to the Brahmajyoti, we want to go through the Brahmajyoti. We want to go right into Krishna Loka. So that is Matpara. Make Krishna the goal of life.
Maharaj, can I ask?
Yes?
something?
Uh-huh.
Maharaj, there are two things. Going back home, back to Godhead, and service here. So, sometimes it's... Maharaj, what should we pray for? That we want to go back home, back to Godhead.
Yeah, there was...
It's in there in heart, but... and we want to serve also. Yes, Maharaj, sorry.
Yeah, there was one man who came to Prabhupada like that, asking what to pray for. The one man, he was a gospel singer in the USA. He was quite famous. He had a lot of recordings of his songs and so on. His name was the Reverend Gary Davis. Gary Davis. He was a black American man. And he came to see Prabhupada, and he was asking Prabhupada, he said, Swamiji, what to pray for? What to pray for? You know, he was a Southern American man, and he was asking Prabhupada, what should we... It was a mystery. He was supposed to be a man of God, but he couldn't really figure out what we should be praying for. But Prabhupada explained to him very clearly that we simply pray for devotional service, that please engage me in your service. Wherever you want to put me, that we're ready. We just want devotional service. So that should be our thinking, really, as devotees, that please engage me in your service. Wherever you may put us, we just want devotional service. Let me have the association of devotees, that I can be engaged properly in your service. And Prabhupada would often quote Lord Chaitanya on that he didn't want wealth or followers or anything. He just simply wanted devotional service, birth after birth. So Prabhupada said he does not have even a desire for liberation. He simply wants devotional service, birth after birth. So that's nice to pray like that.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
There was one lady, her name was Gauri. She was it was in Prabhupada's time. She was a book distributor. And she was not a young woman, and somehow her health broke down and she was leaving the body, and so they brought her to meet Prabhupada, and she was saying to Prabhupada, so, Swamiji, Prabhupada, she said, Prabhupada, I just want to I want to take birth again and come back and distribute your books. But Prabhupada looked at her and he said to her, that's all right, you can go back to Godhead. You don't need to come here and distribute books, just go back to Godhead. So Prabhupada was encouraging her, that cultivate your connection with Lord Krishna and go back to be with Krishna. Look to Krishna. It was interesting. Prabhupada said like that to her, although, she was thinking initially that Prabhupada would want her to come back and distribute books. But Prabhupada said, no, just you go back to Krishna. Go back to Krishna. go to Krishna.
Means like praying for devotional service and having a strong desire to go back home, back to Godhead. Is this right, Maharaj?
Yes.
Those are...
Well, praying for devotional service, we should have a strong desire to go back to Godhead. Of course, but back to Godhead can be also devotional service. You know, if we're in devotional service, we're already back to Godhead. You know, that is back to Godhead, devotional service. To be fully engaged in Krishna's service, you're back to Godhead. When Krishna was meeting the people from Vrindavan, all the cowherd men in Vrindavan, they were wondering who is Krishna, and they were trying to figure out about Krishna's identity, and then they understood Krishna was actually the Supreme Lord. So they wanted to know what is it like in the spiritual world, and Krishna showed them the spiritual world, and they saw it was just like Vrindavan. It was just like they were living in Vrindavan, and Krishna showed them the spiritual world, and it was just the same as Vrindavan. So they were surprised. There's no difference. You're in Vrindavan. You're already back to Godhead.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Okay, any other questions? Maybe we'll finish here tonight, and tomorrow night we'll come back and do chapter 12 and finish this unit, right?
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go back to Vrinda ki. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.